The Power of Creativity. Learning how to build lasting habits. Face your fears and change your life. Book 1. 1. The Mirror. We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. Anais Nin. October 17, 2009. It was the morning after my 30th birthday party, and I was lying on the cold tiles in the upstairs bathroom of my house. My skin felt sticky to touch, and I imagined a shard of glassware was tearing my head in two. I got up, put my hands on the sink, looked in the mirror and into my bloodshot eyes. I didn't like what I saw. I could, almost, forgive myself for having a crippling hangover the morning after my birthday. I knew my life had some trappings of success: a healthy son and daughter, a wife, a paying job and a modest-sized house. But I knew I was a failure. However, since I was a 5-year-old boy reading a tattered copy of Roald Dahl's The BFG underneath the bed covers with a flashlight between my teeth, I wanted to be a writer. But to want something and to be brave enough to pursue it are two different things. I'd spent 25 years being too afraid to pursue what I wanted. For years, I read books about getting more done, coming up with ideas, unlocking fresh thinking, changing habits, writing, and managing to-do lists, calendars, and even time itself, but I was the ultimate procrastinator. I collected other people's big ideas like they were rare coins that belonged in a glass case at the back of my mind. I never put what I found into practice. I was too afraid to start, too afraid to go after what I wanted, too afraid to think big. Sure, some of my decisions opened doors for me. I talked about Ernest Hemingway and Anais Nin over pints of beer with friends, and I studied journalism in college, a suitable course for any would-be writer. I even talked my way into a job as a print journalist for a Dublin newspaper. There, I was paid to report on news stories each week. I was terrible at it. I dreaded the weekly news meetings, and I couldn't stand being in the same room as the editor of the newspaper. I was permanently devoid of ideas to write or report on, and everybody at the paper knew it. I didn't last long at that job or the next job in the media. I left journalism and drifted into another career that had nothing to do with writing, a career that snuffed out any sparks of creativity from its employees with mind-numbing routines, policies, and procedures. I became afraid of taking creative chances because I was worried about paying the bills and of what others would think. I became caught up in the day-to-day practicalities of life. So the morning after my birthday, I looked in the mirror at my receding hairline and the first flecks of gray in my beard. I saw I was no closer to becoming a writer than the 5-year-old boy who stayed up at night reading a frayed, yellow copy of the BFG. I realized I needed to face my fears. I was a zebra who needed to change his stripes. I needed to at least start, and I could do it with small, incremental changes. I'd work on becoming physically and mentally healthier. I'd seek out new ideas and put them into practice. I'd get over feeling afraid of rejection and failure, and I'd learn the demands of my craft. The road ahead. To be creative is to embark on a long journey. I can't promise where you'll end up, but I know where we'll start. In this book, I'll explain why keeping an orderly and quiet life will help you prepare for fantastic and wild ideas. I'll also guide you through setting up your studio or where you work for success, the difference between efficiency and effectiveness, and how to feed your subconscious. You'll discover why knowing your guiding purpose is just as important as feeling inspired about your creative projects. You'll learn how a mentor can help you face your fears and overcome everyday obstacles. And you'll find out what to do if you can't find one. I cannot think of anything more powerful for writers, musicians, or artists than a daily creative habit. So, I'll guide you through which ones to cultivate and what to ignore. I'll explain why strengthening your mind and body and working hard is key to fresh thinking. But what if you're feeling exhausted? Well, you can always turn to one of your side projects like television. Director, producer, and writer Matthew Weiner, which I'll explain later. Finally, we'll go to war. We're going to conquer any fears you have about creativity or your craft and then move boldly forward. In each chapter, I'll draw on scientific studies, because we can all benefit from a little science, and I'll also examine the lives of contemporary and past creative masters from the arts, business, technology, and more. Each chapter concludes with applicable exercises or creative takeaways that will help you overcome common setbacks in your work. Because, hey, theory is nice, but practice is better. Who this book is for? It's the first in a three-part series about creativity, which I wrote for new writers, musicians, filmmakers, and artists. This book, in particular, is for anyone who has ever thought I have a hard time being creative or I would like to discover my passion or even the prospects of my work being rejected is terrifying. If you're an artist adrift, I wrote this book for you. I'm not all sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops, so if you're looking for a shortcut to a six-figure paycheck or a glittering review in the New Yorker, get out now. I'd love a shortcut as much as the next person, you will find none here. You're still going to have to do the hard work. As I've learned firsthand, when your eyes are bloodshot, your fingers call used and your back aching, you're still on the hook for working on your ideas, for stepping forwards. Oh, and here's the thing, when I read books that tackle subjects like creativity, I'm struck by how distant the writer is from his or her research, and how dry the material reads. It's as if a serious topic like creativity warrants objective distance and emotional detachment. Yet, reader loses when an author's detachment results in dry prose devoid of storytelling and steeped in research and critical analysis. Regardless of whether the material between the covers is worth the slog, those books are just not much fun to read. I don't want you to lose. So you'll find my story, my fears, my struggles, my wins and my setbacks woven through these pages. I've put as much of myself and as many illuminating stories about habit building, conquering your fears and nurturing your creativity into this book as possible. But, you've been waiting long enough. So, let's begin. 2. Prepare to be inspired. I think people who create and write,